Hey guys! Today I'm doing my third installment of ranking album covers on a tier list. But today we will be ranking the covers of 20 different rock albums. These are all pretty modern rock albums, nothing too old. That wasn't necessarily on purpose, but just how things panned out. Going into this ranking, keep in mind that this is all my very subjective opinion. We are all bound to be drawn to different album covers, so if I hate your favorite cover, let's agree to disagree. This video is all good vibes. Also, this ranking is based on the covers alone, not the music, so I can rank an album I absolutely love musically a little bit low just due to the cover not being super strong for me. So with that all being said, make sure to like this video to support my channel and subscribe so you don't miss my uploads. I upload music-based content every week. And with that, let's get into the list. The first album cover we will be reviewing is 72 Seasons by Metallica. With the concept of 72 seasons being the amount of seasons from when you're born till when you turn 18, I think this cover is great. I love the imagery of these things that make someone who they are just bursting out of the crib from where they started. It's honestly a really cool concept. I also love how the album cover doesn't have words that take away attention from the story being told. Honestly, this is really solid and the black and yellow really catch the eye. Therefore, the cover for 72 Seasons by Metallica goes into S tier. Considering the thoughtful, purposeful imagery, we're off to a good start. The cover for Bad Flowers, No Place Like Home aligns with the title of the album and the construction company merch that they've been making. Also, there is a song on the album called Swinging Hammers, so it kind of goes along with that. Bad Flowers is my favorite band, but if I'm being honest, they don't have my favorite album covers. However, this is probably my favorite cover that they've done, but it's still just like fine for me. I'll put it into high C tier, but you know, Bad Flowers is a pretty deep band and a lot of what they do has more significance than what it seems like on the surface level. So maybe I just need to sit with this album a little bit more to understand the cover, but I've listened to it about a dozen times. But yeah, for now I'll just put it into C tier. Next we have a newer band, The Funeral Portrait, with their album Greetings from Suffocate City. This doesn't really feel like an album cover for me, it more so feels like a movie poster or even like an ad for a theme park's Halloween event. I like the spooky vibe, but the cover isn't my favorite aesthetically. I do like the idea of Suffocate City, then there being statues on the cover because clearly statues don't breathe. It's a fine cover, but I think it's a little generic and I don't think it's particularly eye-catching next to something like 72 Seasons, so I'm putting this in C tier as well. Next we have one of my new favorite bands, which is Sleep Theory, with their album Afterglow. As much as I've been in love with the album Afterglow by Sleep Theory, I mean, almost every song on that album feels like a rock radio hit, it's great, but this cover doesn't do much for me. Maybe there's like a deeper meaning that I'm not aware of, but it seems kind of lazy. I'm giving this cover an F because it's lacking inspiration and I don't really understand the idea with it. But if we're talking about the music itself, this would obviously go much higher. I can definitely tell that the effort was put into the songs that were completely awesome compared to the cover itself, so don't judge a book by its cover because this is an actual awesome album, but I'm gonna have to put it in F tier. Okay, next, one of my favorite rock girls, Poppy, with her album Negative Spaces. This is a stunning photo. It's interesting to look at and it's consistent with the visuals for Negative Spaces that were shown in music videos and performances. It's a gorgeous shot. Poppy always does great on the album covers. I think she's one of the most photogenic celebrities, honestly. All her photo shoots are just so fun to look at. They all have such cool artistic direction. And again, I love that it's not ruined by some useless text with the album's name. Sometimes it works, and sometimes that can just really take away from the impactfulness of a cover, and I think rock definitely knows when to leave the album name off the cover compared to pop artists who just put it on there all the time. This is probably my second favorite cover from Poppy after I Disagree, which is more interesting to look at for me considering the makeup, but this is pretty solid too. I can confidently put the cover for Negative Spaces into the A tier. Next, let's rank the album cover for Posthuman Next Gen by Bring Me the Horizon. I actually really like this cover for Posthuman Next Gen, but I won't lie, I was wondering if it was AI due to the mask just going over half the face, but I did find that apparently it was not AI and instead it was made by Illicit. So I really enjoy the art style and I think this character looks awesome, so I'm putting it in the A tier. It's fun and nice to look at. Next, we're going to talk about the album cover for Popular Monster by Falling in Reverse. I think even though this photo wasn't directly made for the Popular Monster album, it provides a great piece of irony to go along with this heavyweight album. Ronnie explains it best in this clip.
What are the odds? What are the irony? What's the irony that this is an actual mugshot, me in prison?
10 seconds.
And then I became so fucking successful over the course of 15 years after that, before my first band was successful, went to prison. And this, this is the cover of my album, and people like to make fun of me for having the cover of this album when they don't realize what the meaning behind this mugshot, what this means. Straight risen from the fucking depths of hell and ashes.
I have to put it in A tier. Despite it not necessarily even being for an album or whatever, it just kind of happened and ended up being the best possible thing that he could have put on the cover. Now, let's talk about Heaven X Hell by Sum 41. Clearly, the cover for Heaven X Hell by Sum 41 has meaning. I mean, it's one door to heaven, one door to hell. But even then, I don't find this very aesthetically pleasing. It's almost too on the nose as well. It's just not doing much for me, and it doesn't feel super inspired despite having a concept. I just can't get with this one, so it's going into C tier because even if I don't like it, I can see that an attempt was made, but still kind of meh. Let's get into Carnal by Nothing More. One thing about the album Carnal by Nothing More is that it's super duper existential. I mean, I love this album, but the themes of death included in it definitely make it a time and place kind of album, if that makes sense. But with that, I think the idea for the cover being a decomposing human is super fitting with the meaning of the album. Also, it goes along with the title Carnal, which the word carnal is described as being what you physically need. It's also just a super sleek cover. I love the grayscale with the gold. It's really pretty to look at. So honestly, I love this cover. It's going into S tier for me. Hi, this is Editing Me. I didn't want to re-edit my video, but I think that two of these album covers are in the wrong tier, those being Popular Monster and No Place Like Home. I think they're both pretty similar, being a picture of the artist with some deeper meaning to it, so I think that No Place Like Home can move up to B tier, and Popular Monster should be moved down to B tier. So hopefully you don't mind that I moved my tier list, but I was just thinking that was more accurate. So let's get back into reviewing these album covers. Okay, one of my favorite bands up next, we'll talk about the cover for 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge Deluxe by My Chemical Romance. I think this cover goes great with the themes and imagery included in the 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge album. It just has a great aesthetic to it that works. With that being said, similarly to Bad Flowers album, it hurts me to say this because of how much I love MCR, but I don't think it's anywhere near an upgrade to the original cover, which would be an S tier cover if we were ranking that. So this one can go into C tier. It's fine, but it's not particularly interesting to me, especially when being compared to the original cover. Next, another emo band, another one of my favorite bands, Pierce the Veil's cover for Jaws of Life. I think the album cover is striking, just being the Jaws of Life, as that's something that can evoke a lot of emotion and feeling for people who have had experiences with that. With that being said, there's also a clear color scheme for this album, but it's not my favorite Pierce the Veil album cover by a long shot. I think this is more minimalist compared to the others, which I don't usually love minimalism that much. Comparing all the covers they've had in the past that every emo would recognize, I'm not sure if this one will age to be as iconic as those, but it's fine. I'll give it a B tier. Honestly, B tier for Jaws of Life. Next is Metal Fourth by Baby Metal. First of all, I know this is an alt cover, but I like this one more, so I'm going to judge it on this tier list. First of all, I know this is an alt cover, but I like this one more, so I'm judging this one on the tier list. I think they're clearly serving on the cover, and the shattered glass is quite pleasing to look at. It has a lot of cool colors reflecting off of each other. Honestly, it's a pretty gorgeous cover, but compared to some of the other covers on this list, it doesn't really tell a story. It's just kind of a pretty picture and less interesting to look at than the other ones on the list. Therefore, Metal Fourth is going into D tier. I'm just not a huge fan of this cover, honestly, but the album does have some songs I enjoy a lot, such as the one with Electric Callboy, Ratatata, and their song with Poppy, From Me to You. The cover for this album is just feeling a little corporate and uninspired beyond aesthetics. Okay, next we'll talk about From Zero by Linkin Park. Similarly to Baby Metal's cover for Metal Fourth, the album cover for Linkin Park's From Zero also feels quite corporate. There's not really much of a story being told with this cover that I can tell. It just kind of feels a little soulless to me, but I mean, totally correct me if I'm wrong and this is some meaningful cover in the comments. The colors are pretty, but this cover doesn't really draw me into wanting to listen to this album anymore. It's definitely not my favorite. It's going into F tier because at least Baby Metal brought some slay with their photos being on the cover, whereas this doesn't really bring anything for me. Next, we'll talk about Shinedown's cover for Planet Zero. The Planet Zero album cover is fine. It definitely matches with the whole concept of Planet Zero, which is what the whole album is a concept around. But in a more meta sense, it could also speak on the world being so divided on multiple different topics. I think it's a fine cover that does what it needs to do, but it's not anything particularly striking. It's not like a cover I'd need to put on my wall on a vinyl or anything. It's just fine, so it's going into C tier. Okay, now we're gonna go over the cover for Other Worlds by The Pretty Reckless. I like the art on this one, and I like how it's very feminine. It's a cool concept to have the body floating into space, especially considering this album was the one to come after Death by Rock and Roll. So at least to me, those two covers kind of tell a story of death and moving on to a new dimension. However, that is just me theorizing. I like the muted color scheme. I think it looks nice. This cover doesn't necessarily catch my eye as much as versus the covers I put into S tier, and I think Pretty Reckless's cover for Death by Rock and Roll is a lot stronger, but I still think this is a decent cover, so I'll put it at B tier. Now we have Eat It Up, Spit It Out by Holy Wars. Off the bat, I think this is a great cover. Frontwoman for the band, Kat Leon, is serving on the cover. I love how she looks so glamorous, but there's also an element of grotesqueness with the smashed food. The whole cover is in your face and catches the eye quite well. I also just think that the retro diner vibe is an awesome concept. Honestly, this album is in your face. I think it goes perfectly with the music, so I'm putting this one into S tier. Like, personally, I love this cover. Now we have Techno by Electric Callboy. I'm fully aware Electric Callboy is more of a party band, and something super deep probably wouldn't match their vibes, so I won't take points off for that. But this cover is kind of boring to me. I could make this pretty quickly myself in Photoshop, so I'm not super impressed. I don't get any idea about what this album could be about or sound like based on this cover. It just feels like a placeholder, honestly. I like the songs of theirs that I've heard, but this cover is just bleh to me. I'm not a fan of it, therefore, to the F tier, Techno by Electric Callboy goes. Next is Past, Present, Future by Meet Me at the Altar. They're certainly serving on this cover. I think her blue hair in the pink inflatable couch really make this album cover pop well. It's pleasing to the eye and definitely tells me this is going to be a pretty fun, punky album. It's nothing particularly interesting though. I don't feel like I need to look much deeper into this cover, honestly. It doesn't make me want to listen to the album that much, but it is a nice photo, so it can go in the C tier. Next we have Concrete Jungle by Bad Omens. I'll be honest, I'm kind of a poser with Bad Omens. I know some of their songs, but I'm not too savvy on them, so I haven't really dissected the themes on this album to know if the cover fits, but based on the art alone, I really love the cover. The photo is really fierce. It's an interesting cover that makes me want to listen to the album front to back. It's violent, but also beautiful. Honestly, for the imagery on this alone, I can tell they put a lot of love and effort into the cover. Everything from the styling, to the pose, to the coloring, to the lighting was paid attention to. So I'm putting it in S tier. It's honestly such a great cover. And now for our last album that we're ranking, we have Even in Arcadia by Sleep Token. Similarly to Bad Omens, I'm not too privy on Sleep Token either. I've kind of had a hard time getting into them, but I do recognize their talent. Just saying that to let you know, I don't know too much about this album or its concept, but I think it seems like Arcadia is a place. So I like the naturey vibe on the album cover. I think that fits. It's almost kind of trippy with the way these tree-like things were set up. I'll be honest, I did Google if this cover was AI or not, similarly to Bring Me the Horizons, but luckily it's not. I think this is gorgeous yet subdued. However, for my personal taste, this cover doesn't really make me want to listen to Sleep Token any more than I already do. Kind of opposite from the Bad Omens cover, but yeah, it's pretty and the coloring is nice, but it's not that alluring to me. I'll put the cover for Even in Arcadia into the C tier. And with that, we have ranked every album cover that we'll be talking about in this video. As you may know, this is the third iteration of me ranking album covers, so I have made this visual to show you every album cover that I've put in the S tier thus far. Feel free to pause and take a look at all the different covers. Okay, but that's all the ranking we're doing today. Sorry if I didn't put your favorite band's album cover very high, but just know I respect every band that I talked about today. So anyhow, that's all. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, bye. I'll see you next week.